Hey guys, it's Liquid Earth. You're here in my studio in beautiful Barcelona. I'm here with the Voltage Lab team, and I wanted to showcase a now released track of mine called Lotus Eater. We'll walk through a bit of the stems together. I'll show you some of the elements that I like, and we'll go from there. So thanks for tuning in. The track is quite proggy in nature. So let's start with sort of just the little crusher drum sample here. Quite simple. Tough kick, slappy snare, does the job. Next up, we sort of have these drifting 90s ethereal vocals that I like to use quite often. I think samples like these really help the melody shine, especially used in small doses. We can hear the lower pad, the lower vocal pad sort of phase in and out. And I think I even have here a sort of codec, like bit crusher or bit degrader, which I like to use on a lot of samples. I think it gives things a nice top layer of dirt, which I find gives a lot of my music soul. Next we have some additional drums, nothing special, just sort of mid-range, sharp, forward drum hits. Moving down, we have sort of the main bass bubbling layers that I feel give the track its inherent groove. You sort of hear this sort of filtered bass line that gives it this inherent movement, which I do in a lot of my tracks. You'll notice even percussive elements sort of have this filter modulation constantly going. Second punchy layer of bass line underneath everything. High pass top layer, give it another dimension. We have this nice sort of siren alarm that moves in and out. Bring it back into pad elements. And then the bass line. All of them together work quite nicely, and I'm really happy with how this has panned out. I think most of the samples are sort of grabbed from older post-millennia tracks, as well as from soft synths, like the Waldorf microwave. Bring everything back in. Let's walk through a little bit more of the little effects layers, which I think give the track its personality. You have a little shaker top layer. These sort of moving swells that I think break up the percussive loops. We can hear that in conjunction with the rest of the effects. These little textures really help tidy up sort of the finishing layers of the tracks. We can hear the microwave sample come in. It's a preset here called Rapid Flow, which I think I move through the wavetable to find a sort of palette that fit really well with the remainder of the track. I've also noticed I've been using a lot of sort of guitar emulating synths in a lot of what I do. I feel like the more the wavetable sounds like a punchy guitar, the more I use it. We can hear it here with the microwave, and then again in these samples below. You sort of have this big sort of string strum that pitches down. And I love this. I love sort of unintentional instruments used in dance music. I feel like a lot of labels that I became, that sort of got me into electronic music in the beginning, use a lot of these instruments. And so I like to kind of pay my own tribute. The last little bit of layering here is just going to be sort of that driving, sort of Marco Carolla tech house percussive loops, which is funny using that in the context of this track, but I feel like just sampled drum loops like this, these constantly forward-moving drum samples really help create that driving feel, especially in a club. Last little bit of melody was these little pads that sort of layer beneath everything, sort of ambiance to make the breakdown interesting enough. You hear that all come back in together now. And yeah, that's pretty much what this track looks like, sort of dissected. And I'm quite happy with it. Most of the moving parts have intention, and albeit the project file is quite large, given 50 channels of stems, I do feel each piece of audio has its intended purpose, and I'm quite happy with the way it turned out. So if you see this video, know that this track is out. It's Lotus Eater on my album, and I appreciate you taking the time to tuning in and listening.